Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on this lunch presentation. We are super excited to give you a tour about the future of insurance. We're going to be talking about how process intelligence and AI can help insurers improve their performance and compliance. And the use case that we will be looking together today is claim processing, which is a generic process for many of you, but we hope that this will be just an introduction to how process intelligence can help you into many different business processes. My name is Frédéric Brosseau. I'm leading Levio's process intelligence practice. And today I'm honored to be presenting with you with Tanmay Trivedi, who's partner as Levio and leading the vertical sector at Levio, as well as two super experienced business practice practitioners, Daniel Hughes, which is VP of Sales of Mindsy, one of our partner specialized into process mining, and Yana, who's a senior consultant at Mindsy with 18 years of experience in process excellence and a lot of experience specifically with process mining. Our goal today for this presentation is that you can envision how you can leverage process mining in your insurance organization, understand how AI can accelerate the deployment of process intelligence. We will give you insights on where to start and how to build the case in your organization if you want to experience or experiment with process mining and process intelligence. And finally, we will see what is the link between process mining and hyperautomation so that you can learn from the best practices. If you have any questions during the seminar, please use the chat. We will try to answer all of your questions at the end. So we are currently taking notes of the questions that are coming up. Oftentimes, some questions are answered during the presentation, so we will be keeping them for the end. But if we don't have time to respond to all questions, we'll make sure that we respond one-to-one to every person who asks a question. On that, what do we mean exactly by process intelligence, process mining, hyperautomation? The angle that we have is that in many organizations, historically, there has been a very mature capabilities to manage applications. So either your application portfolio or your software development operations. This area is in most organizations quite mature. Data management, security is also very mature. The area that is often lacking is process management. And in the last 5 to 10 years, there's a number of new technology that emerged that enables us to understand how the process works for real into your organizations, and B, start to automate these activities that until now were done almost 100% manually. And historically, we had a number of these capabilities that were developed independently, but there's more and more integration between the capacity of monitor your process, understand how it works, and then automate. And today we're going to see how process intelligence, being the combination of process mining, dashboards, automation, and artificial intelligence together can help you improve your performance and compliance. Why would we want to do that? Well, Gartner mentioned recently, about a year ago, that when applied properly, hyperautomation can help organizations like insurers reduce their operational costs by up to 30%. But Gartner mentioned that this is the target when everything is being done right. And we're going to see during this presentation what we think are the key success factor to achieve that 30% target. But in reality, in many organizations that tried to do automation without having a good understanding of how the process works today, that created a number of challenges. And we've seen a number of studies on that topic, but like there's a metadata analysis that was published in Harvard Business Review about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And they say that in average, we have more than 80% of the digital transformation project that failed to meet either their ROI or time objectives. And the main reason is that there was, before doing automation, a lack of understanding of the current process. And we got into either automating something that was not optimal. So the process should have been streamlined before it gets automated, or there was an improper understanding of the current state. And we got into the usual software development project that gets delayed and too costly because like the developer didn't have enough information about the requirements. And then we get into, well, the developers telling the users, well, you didn't tell me how you work properly. You didn't tell me that. And then the business users say, well, you didn't ask me specifically, et cetera, et cetera. So the alternative to this is to use process intelligence. And the model that Levio has developed is the following. We first, in a best practice, we first want to discover the process to understand how it really works in our organization. Then we monitor that process so that you understand, for, as an example, a claim processing process. After we've done the initial discovery of, let's say, your last 12 months of data, we can refresh the data on an ongoing basis and give you live visibility on all of your current claims and understand what are the current risks, and you can address these risks before they become material. And then with these insights, we can, process intelligence give you the capacity to continuously improve your process, but not based on impressions, but a fact-based process improvement. And why would we want to do that? Well, at the end of the day, all of these improvement capabilities are either helping you to improve your performance or your compliance. And specifically, when we talk about performance improvement, we're looking at reducing the actual costs of processing claim or hiring a new employee or whatever your process is, reduce the cycle time. So in a claim, we're going to see how we can help you minimize, at a minimum, the time from the creation to the completion of a claim so that you improve your customer experience. And lastly, we want to make sure that we deliver the quality. So it's being able to deliver the first time right and avoid the rework along the process. In a typical process intelligence or process mining project, the way it works is that we will have a number of source systems. So on the left, we have represented some common system like Guidewire, Salesforce, ServiceNow, but really we can pull information from any source system. And what we want to do, there's an exercise where we will find for a business process, where do we have activity traces in these information system? So if a claim is initiated into Guidewire, but eventually it will be paid off your Oracle or SAP system, we will extract from the source system the relevant information that will enable to understand how the process works from system A to system B. If there are multiple systems in place, we're going to stitch these activities together into what we call an event log. And from there, we will import it into the process mining platform to do detailed analysis and create dashboard, because oftentimes there will be a smaller number of users that will be creating the analysis and the views, and the broader community of users that will access the insight that is first group or first team, that is oftentimes your continuous improvement team or automation team. This team will create the insights that will be published through the organization through dashboards. Process mining has, like, the first commercial implementation was in 2015, so it's still less than 10 years ago. But over the last 2 years, we had a lot of improvement into the discipline brought by artificial intelligence. And the areas where artificial intelligence is currently helping us is the following. Creating the event log is what typically takes 75% in an implementation, because we need to, like, join different tables and we need to write scripts, and that could be somehow a lengthy process. AI now can assist us in finding the relationships between the different entities and writing automatically or semi-automatically the scripts that will help us to join these different tables. The area that I think has probably the most impact is to be able to add to the model unstructured information. If we're looking at the claim, there's a lot of text that will be in nodes, and there's a lot of unstructured data from, like, agent nodes or recording of customer calls. And AI is now doing a very good job in summarizing and categorizing these nodes so that you can add it to your models and build, again with AI or other technology, but you can build predictive model or root cause analysis that will be much more accurate, because you can now leverage all of the information you have in these nodes. I mentioned number 4, which is the predictive and the root cause analysis already. When we're working with any of these tools, you need to know statistics. You need to be able to create measures. Until now, we really needed to have someone who knows, like SQL as an example, or these type of languages. More and more, the software vendor have done a great job in building easy to use user interface and the addition to Copilot, so that someone can actually create these analyses with the assistance of an AI agent. Currently, if you want to ask a question and find an answer in your process mining model, you will need to, like, create a dashboard, or you need to create a query. More and more and more, we have natural language tools that enables anyone in your organization to basically use standard language, standard English, to ask a question. So you could ask the system, like, just write a sentence and say, I want to understand what are the top 5 percentile like claims in terms of duration, and understand what are the key drivers that drive that long duration. And then the holy grail is that once we have a model that monitors your claims, we can have AI that will automatically create automation. So we can build if this and that, and we can explain to train a model that will say, when this happened, I want you to act automatically on it. So you will hear more and more in the coming years about AI agents that will proactively monitor the process and make decisions on it in a trained manner. But the key for that is to have a good like, you need to have good data. If you're connecting directly to your source system and the data is not clean, you will have oftentimes less than optimal results in your AI models. So as we're building this process warehouse here, we're making sure that we're cleaning the data, and we can then have process mining, but also AI-enabled automation based on data that is of quality. So I give you kind of a tour about the high-level like need for process intelligence. Tanmay will continue and explain specifically for the claim processing process why we would want to do that. And in a few minutes, you'll have an actual demo that will show you how we can address the business needs that Tanmay will explain.
Thank you, Frederick. Wanted to take a minute to welcome everyone to the webinar and really appreciate folks joining and having this conversation with us. We wanted to pick an example that we can relate to. And I'm actually going to take a step back. When I think about insurance as a whole, it's a very unique offering. In most simplistic terms, the concept of insurance is a lot of people, many of us pay for the losses of a few. And it's really a promise to indemnify when there's an unforeseen or an unpleasant event. Those can be different perils, that can be getting into a car accident, that can be a damage to your home, etc. And insurance is the only product that we buy. Here's the uniqueness. Insurance is the only product that we buy for which we promise to pay for indemnity, but we hope not to use it. So the moment of truth in insurance really comes at a point of the claims experience. How does the insurance company take care of the claimant, the customer, or the policyholder at the time of the claim? To me, that is the moment of truth. And a lot of challenges are attributed to the externalities that you have in the claims processing. So we'll talk about the process a little bit, but more importantly, against the backdrop of this, we'll bring to life a claims example. We will drill down into the different choke points, the different drill down, the level of analysis and granularity that the certain process mining tools can drive and can really help understand how do you use AI, how do you use hyperautomation to really improve the claims process, thereby improving the experience. There's a couple of numbers I want to talk about that you see on the slide here. There has been a trend in the last 5 years of what we in the industry call social inflation. There's the idea that the insurance company has treated the claimant unfairly, has really come to fore. And what we are seeing is a very heavy litigation landscape. I was actually talking to one of the top 5 P&C leaders this past week, and they have spent $1.8 billion in litigation in the last few years. Just some high-level numbers to touch upon. A lot of claims cases are now going to litigation. It's risen 47% over the last 5 years, combination of multiple factors coming out of the pandemic, the nature and severity of the events and the catastrophes that we are seeing because of the climate crisis to some extent. And now P&C carriers are allocating up to $500 million just to deal with what they call ALAE, Adjusted Loss Adjustment Expense, meaning the cost not just to pay the claim, but also the litigation cost, the administrative cost, the processing cost. There's a firm that only deals in personal injury law, and they have made headlines for filing 25,000 record lawsuits in a single week. The average cost to process a claim in terms of what it costs insurance companies, I'm only talking processing, not the claims payment, up to $54 per day. And on average, it can take sometimes 6 to 8, 10 plus weeks to settle a complex claim, just because there's a lot of complexity involved that we'll talk about in the next slide. Also, another interesting tidbit, in this particular landscape, litigation landscape, there used to be a benchmark called nuclear verdict, lawsuits that paid up to $1 million. Now the benchmark has risen to $10 million, and these are termed thermonuclear verdicts. So a lot is happening in this particular space, and a lot of it comes down to the dissatisfaction that the claimants have with the claims process, the differences in how they are handled. For example, a lot of the work that is done by insurance companies, it's still very manual and fragmented, and it is dependent on the intuition, the experience, the tenure of the person or the claims adjuster handling the claim. If we go to the next slide, Frederick. Here, I'll quickly walk through some of the high-level stage gates in the claims process and touch upon some of the pain points that you typically see. The process starts with what we call first notice of loss. So this is the time when a carrier for the first time hears about an event that has occurred that would create a claim. The biggest challenge you see is there are many channels through which this is enabled. It can be phone, mobile app, portal, and unfortunately, most of us have dealt with this, have gotten into fender benders, have gotten into car accidents, etc. So it is the reality of life. And at that moment, you're already dealing with a lot. So the externality is you're trying to do your best dealing with a police report. You're already dealing with a unforeseen, unplanned event after you stepped out of your house to get to wherever you were going to. So a lot of information is not received correctly during FNOL. It's incomplete. There are different channels, so it is tough to consolidate that information. Only about 10% of carriers actually ask for photos or videos of what has actually transpired. The second stage in the claims process is really loss determination. So once the claimant informs the insurance company and their representatives that an accident or an event has occurred, now that kickstarts the process of trying to make sense of what has happened. What was the loss? Who's at fault? Trying to recreate what actually happened. And these vary in severity and magnitude. Someone getting rear-ended in a fender bender is very different from getting T-boned at a red light. And I'm just using auto examples for simplicity, but these all vary based on the extent and severity of these perils that we've talked about. We have all read and seen recently what's been happening in Florida, in the Tampa Bay area, et cetera. So these events, unfortunately, have gone up in severity and frequency and magnitude. The third step is really claims insights and settlement optimization. So once the parties on the insurance organization side have made sense of what has happened, then they start the process of contacting the claimant and try to understand their version. And the job that they're trying to manage is how do you provide the best customer experience? How do you provide the right amount of claim? But how do you also prevent an insurance company from going bankrupt? Because at the end of the day, it is a business. So they're trying to manage what were the planned reserves, what needs to be the exact claim payout, and how do you best take care of the claimant and be able to make them whole, actually indemnify them. And in this process, the adjusters face a lot of challenges. There's a ton of challenges regarding balancing the trade-off between the right reserves, the customer service, dealing with incomplete information, customers getting punted around between different parties. So that creates somewhat of a broken and irate experience. So that is what has been leading to a lot of litigation, a lot of churn also. About 67% of customers leave their carriers for two reasons. One is price sensitivity, they get a better price elsewhere, or they feel that they were not treated fairly at the time of the claims experience. So a lot is happening in digital AI to streamline this process, to enable the human being with the insights, with the predictive next best actions, et cetera, that you can get from hyperautomation to be able to best service your claimants. This is what we'll talk about as the next part of the demo. How can technologies be applied, process mining, et cetera, getting into the details and streamlining this process? Because all of this eventually, the goal is to be able to better serve your customers, better elevate the experience for them, and be able to take care of them at the point of their need. So that's what we'll get into, and happy to answer questions in the chat or even after the demo.
Thank you. At this point, we will transition to an actual presentation of a typical analysis of a claim management process. And Danielle and Yana will take over and present how this can be done into the MindZ platform.
Thank you, Frederick. It's great to be able to present with you and Tanmay today and the rest of the Levio team. So my name's Daniel Hughes. I am with Mindsy. Mindsy is the software platform that enables Levio to provide the process discovery and monitoring services for insurance claims. So today I'll walk through a demonstration of how the Mindsy platform provides the technology for process discovery on the front end or process documentation, and then also can provide the ability to operationalize those insights into a fully functional process monitoring platform where you can monitor the changes that were recommended through your process improvement exercise. So the system starts by collecting data or connecting to and collecting data from transactional systems like Guidewire, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and so on. It also combines that with desktop level data like clicks, keystrokes, and scrolls in other applications like Outlook, Excel, websites, and things like that. And the outcome of that is a map and documentation of every way that a claim is processed or executed in your organization. So here on the screen, you can see that there are many different ways that a claim is processed, starting with, looks like all of them start with first notice of loss, but some of them are assigned, some of them go straight to investigation, sometimes coverage is verified, sometimes the claim is investigated first. And the system also calculates the duration of each of the ways that the claim is processed to help you identify what's most effective. So the first step is process discovery. Let's identify all the ways that you're executing the process. From there, the system uses generative AI to automatically give you process insights, because you can simply prompt the system or automatically schedule the AI to analyze all of your process executions, all of your claims, to identify where are the bottlenecks, what's the most efficient steps, what's the longest duration steps, and even where there are compliance or conformance issues in the process. So this allows you to understand exactly what's happening immediately upon system implementation. No more guessing, no more building dashboards, no more trying to do necessarily subject matter expert interviews. Load the data, the AI generates insights. What that allows you to do is take all the complexity from your claims process. You can see in this example, the system or the claims process was executed in 66 different ways, which turns into a really complex tangle of process steps and loops and rework. The system allows you to take that and find the optimal way of process execution. What is the fastest route to paying the claim without skipping any steps, without going outside of your conformance issues, and also meeting the SLAs that you've guaranteed internally and externally to your customers. Once you understand the way the process has been executed over the last time period, now the system gives you the ability to operationalize those insights or get real-time process visibility into not what happened last year, but what happened last hour or last minute or yesterday, so that you can prioritize claims that you need to work on, you can prioritize customers, you can automatically ensure that you don't have compliance or conformance issues in the process. That starts by understanding immediately where the current bottlenecks are in the process. You can see right here on the dashboard that the redder the step or the activity pair, the longer that is taken over the last day or week or month. So in this case, we have payment processing to claims closure takes on average 11.88 days, which is the longest activity pair, the longest step in our process, And if we wanted to shorten the time for claims closure, it would be the first place that we would go and investigate what the causes of that are. The system makes it really easy to do that with the AI-generated root cause analysis. So in this case, instead of using LLMs and generative AI, we're using statistical modeling AI and machine learning to correlate what is the predictive and prescriptive causes of the bottlenecks that we're looking for or analyzing. So in this case, we've looked at what is the source of the claim. Is it an email? Is it a website? Is it a phone call? Is it the app? And found that email source claims explain 69.4% of the cases with long duration, or the claims that took a long time. So almost 70% of what we defined as long cases or long claims come from email sources. So maybe we should look into what we're missing in the email that causes it to take that long. And also 54% of the cases that take a long time are for Department 1. So we could actually go and record what happens in Department 1 to understand if they're doing things differently than Department 2 that's leading them to take longer time. Can also drill deeper into specific steps to look at what are the root causes for rework in this case. What is the root cause of 1,157 cases that went back from damage assessment to request documentation? Ideally, we would probably like to request the documentation and then do the damage assessment and have everything that we asked for. But in this case, we see a large percentage that go back to request documentation again, and we can identify what those root causes are. We can also look into process performance or step-to-step cycle times. So we can see in this case, resolution settlement to payment processing takes on average of 11.5 days. So is that we could look at a histogram of that to see if that's a normal distribution, or what we find in a lot of cases that we have long tails of really long running claims cases that if we just fix those, the average would come down. So what we can do is set reminders or automations that say anytime resolution settlement to payment processing takes over 8 days, let's send a notification or let's escalate this to a different team. And all of that gives you the ability to reduce cost and monitor ongoing cost of claims processing in the system. So we create a real-time dashboard that allows you to look at rework and corrections. Let's take a step back here. We can look at what is the cost of rework by step. So in this case, we've lined out all the different activities that have rework, and we can actually look at the root causes even for repeated approvals, right? A specific case owner, a specific call center, a specific claim type. And to reduce cost, we might want to optimize our touchless claims, or at least the claims that, or at least eliminate repeated activities and the loops and rework in our claims. So we can identify case duration by rework and case owner. So a nice chart that shows us, hey, the longest cases down here don't necessarily have the most work, but they do have the most repetitions. So we can see that the most cases are down here that happen pretty fast. One user does a lot of cases, but they don't have a ton of rework. This user doesn't even do as many cases, but it takes them a really long time because they have a lot of rework steps. We can also look at what does the impact of redundant tasks or loops and rework across teams cause to the cycle time of a specific case or on average. So we can see that we have just under 1,999 repetitions for approved settlement that adds on average 7.7 days to our claim processing. So if we eliminated those loops and rework, we could reduce the time it takes to process a claim, get happier clients, get the claim paid faster. And then we can also continuously monitor for SLA compliance. So not a sampling, not looking at 10%, not looking at just a portion of cases, but let's monitor continuously in real time 100% of our cases for SLA compliance. So maybe if we wanted to look at claims that took over 40 days, we would have a list of claims that have been in there over 60 days or 40 days. We could have a list of claims that haven't been assigned in 48 hours. And we can also automatically create alerts or escalate those cases, the urgent cases, to a different team that might have less work, to a manager or to a specialist, based on what we see in the data. And then finally, we also use AI and predictive models to identify the claims that are likely to be at risk of taking a long time or having customer service complaints. And we can provide that list and help you prioritize who should work on which claim, what order you should work on the claims in, so that you can be more productive and meet your SLA requirements. And then also, we have real-time monitoring. The system monitors, again, all the claims, and we can monitor for compliance and audit. So make sure that no steps were skipped. If a step does get skipped, we can send an alert or put it on hold, automate putting it on hold in your system. So not only will you have better performing process that meets your SLAs, but it will also conform to the business rules that you've put in place. So with that, I will turn it back over to Frederick to talk about how this gets implemented.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Let's continue with the last leg of our presentation, which is about value realization. And we want to give you some ideas on if you want to take this learning and do a proof of concept in your organization or move forward, where do we start from there? I mentioned into the introduction that we believe strongly into an incremental model where we start with a process discovery, then we get into the process monitoring, and then we get into the improvement. And the combination of Lavio and Mindsy can help you to these three phases. You do not need to get a full commitment for the whole journey. Oftentimes, our customers will want to start by a simple process discovery. So if there's an interest on your part, we collaborate with you to understand the scope of your process, where the information should come from, and then we would typically collaborate with your team to extract, let's say, the last 6 months, the last 12 months of data. And on that data, we do a complete audit based on some of the things you've seen today and more to give you a diagnostic on how you're doing with your claim performance and compliance. We mentioned claim processing, but like the technology, the concept, the discipline applies to many other type of processes. So if you're looking for analysis on how your policy renewals work or your subscription or whatever, your HR, your account payable, the same technology, the same approach can be applied to a number of processes. Typically after the discovery, and by the way, just a side note, oftentimes the customers will do this phase only if they want to do a system migration. They have a team that is driving for documentation on how the current system works, sending a business analyst in the field and developing BPMN. If you're lucky, you'll have a business process modeling that takes like the top 3 variants, and there's a lot of exceptions that are at risk of being forgotten. So process mining is the best way to guarantee a system migration. once the discovery is done, if you are happy with the results, then it becomes very easy to just refresh the data feed on a daily basis. And then you will have an ongoing monitoring of your claims. As Daniel mentioned, you'll have trends. Anything that becomes out of the typical control bands will be detected, and you can send alerts, or you can automate in situations where there's a problem that is about to happen before it gets material. And then with these insights, Levio and Mindsy and the team, we can help you implement ongoing continuous improvement process. Sometimes it's as simple as changing the communications with your customers, because you realize there's a form or a screen or a communication that creates rework. But it could be also that we're adding an AI model or an automation or something like that. So we can help you at these 3 different stages. And in cooperation with Mindsy, we're very happy to be able to offer you 3 implementation models. So the first one is on-premise. If you want to license the software and install it in your own on-premise servers, the Mindsy platform can be installed 100% on your local machines, so that you have full control on the environment. Sometime, many organizations now will want to have a cloud-based or SaaS-based solution, so we can deploy the Mindsy platform on a cloud that you will be managing and responsible for. So we basically make sure that it's a cloud-based solution, but it's 100% on your control. And then the last option is often used by insurers that wants to do just an initial audit. They don't want to invest into implementing the whole architecture. The IT resources may not be available. So what we do an extract of the data, and we will load it into our own instance of the Mindsy application. We will do the analysis with you, but you will not have, it's kind of process mining as a service, if you want. That covers, it's already Q2. That covers the topic that we wanted to review with you. You have the email of everyone, so feel free to reach out to any of us that covered if you have questions that you want to target to us. You have a QR code overlay on my profile. If you put your phone on it, it will be brought to my LinkedIn profile. If you want to reach out to me via LinkedIn, continue the discussion, that's also an option. Before we close, we wanted to make sure that we cover the questions that came up during the presentation. So David Schiff, I didn't really have a look on the Q&A. Curious to see if we have participant questions that we can address right now.
Yes, we do. And I'll go ahead and ask them, and then I'll ask the panelists to answer. The first question is actually more of a general question. Will we get access to the recording after the webinar? The answer is yes. For all attendees and registrations, we will be sending out the webinar link afterwards. The other question for you specifically, Frederick, was when you were presenting, when you say AI, are you talking about Gen AI or ML or something else?
Combination of both. So thank you for the question. When you, as an example, I mentioned that one of the use case is to be able to just write, like type sentences and ask a question to the model. So you could say, like we created in this presentation a number of views that you can see, and that means that someone already created the dashboard because we think it's a question that would come up. There is generative AI capability that enables you to just ask the question. So you could say, as an example, like, what is the main bottleneck do I have to the system? and explain to me why. And the system will automatically like query the model and understand like the pair of activity that has the longest duration and do a root cause analysis to say which variable associated to these cases are statistically different than the others. So in this case, it's typically a generative AI use. If you develop a case, like we can also use AI approaches, which is machine learning. So fraud is an example that we didn't touch at all, but a number of the claims could be collusions between individuals. Like there are a lot of type of potential fraud issue in claim processing. In this case, machine learning is a good system because you can typically look at an historical data set and either set out of this what were the known cases of fraud. The machine learning engine will learn what makes these cases different than a normal case and create a model that will give a percentage of fraud. And now every ongoing fraud, like you don't need every ongoing claim will be ranked on a percentage of fraud. And then let's say you say, I want to pay special attention if it's over 90% or whatever the threshold is within your organization, then you can add automatically an alert or a step in your process to have a special look on these cases that are higher fraud cases, are higher risk. Now, again, the key when we're doing process intelligence, I think the most valuable thing that you're building is that process warehouse. Having the ability to pull information from different systems, clean the data, aggregate it in a process view. This is where after that, you will accelerate the performance of any AI initiative that you have. So all of the methodology that we have here is really an accelerator for your AI initiatives. Sorry for the long answer.
Thank you, Frederick. Another question on the response or the validation of AI, and I think this is for the general group as well, is the validations of the response of AI is quite a bit of concern, especially on the issues of having the AI perform analysis based on the existing statistical data. How is the validations being done?
Danielle, do you want to take
Yeah,
this
do you
one?
want me to handle that? So it's great question. And everybody knows that generative AI has had a problem with hallucinations since it's been implemented. So we try really hard to eliminate as much of that hallucination as possible through the training sets that we provide to the LLM and how we provide the guardrail rails around the prompts to ensure that the LLM is focused specifically on the data set that you're asking about or you're prompting it to respond about, and to focus it to work specifically as a process improvement specialist. So with that, we've been able to eliminate a large amount of the hallucination in the LLMs. But it's always best used as a starting point and to apply some human intelligence to it. I like to give an example, and you could try this in our tool. If you ask it, how do I shorten the cycle time of this process? And it's a claims process, and you see that you have 5 levels of approvals for any claims over $1 million. It sees that that last approval takes a really long time, and that if you eliminated that, it would shorten the process. So it's likely going to recommend eliminate approval step 5 for claims over $1 million to shorten your process, which would work. It doesn't know, however, that that's going to be an issue for your internal controls. So it will do a really good job of making recommendations and analyzing the data, but you should apply some human intelligence to it.
Excellent. And one more question. I believe this is for you, Tame. We saw a claims example. Can this technology be used or extended to other parts of the insurance value chain? Can you give examples of other use cases?
Yeah, great question again. And I would say that the power of the technology and the demonstration we saw is the ability to get into deep insights. As I was saying earlier, a lot of the work that happens in insurance processing is really, there's a high degree of individual subjectivity based on the experience, the tenure of the individuals working, whether it's a claim or an underwriter or something on the F&A side. So the technology itself has far-reaching and varying use cases that it can be applied to. What we are diligent about is helping and working with our customers to understand what are their priorities, what do their transformation journeys look like, because each journey is unique, and then work with you to prioritize that aspect or that set of use cases based on your prioritization roadmap.
Perfect. And just one last question here. What is the main challenge in a typical project, and how to mitigate this challenge?
If I can take this one,
Yeah.
I like to think that process mining is both a science and an art. Doing the software is definitively science. Like, it will use algorithms, it will do root cause analysis. There's a lot of things that are pure computer science and calculations and the likes. Building a good process mining requires experience and some expertise. If you want to have a very good project, you want to involve business users that understand the process well, IT people that understand your system well. And it's actually, like, process mining, I found, is oftentimes the way for your business and your IT operations to collaborate together, sometimes for the first time, in continuous process improvement. But building this model, like, I can get into details, but just deciding what is an activity that I really want or not to add in a model is an important decision. There's some activity that maybe are just mundane and it will bring noise to the model. So finding the right level of aggregation is somehow with an art. Determining what is the real start and the real end of an activity requires judgment, and the quality of the initial build of the event of that process warehouse and event log will impact significantly the performance of your process mining model, but AI models and automation models. So I would say the most important is the collaboration that the cross-functional team will have in the creation of that process warehouse.
Excellent. And I think that is all for the Q&A.
Good. Well, we're right on time. It was a pleasure being with you today over lunch. I hope that you learned, that you can take these insights back to your organization and continue the discussion. If you would like a custom presentation to a broader team, if you want to investigate with us all how to launch a first project, we are all excited to work with you. So thank you in advance and have a great rest of your day.